up, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? How you been?
Doing great, bro. Come on in.
Man. Of course. Thank you. Appreciate you getting us in here today, man.
Yeah, man.
It's very exclusive.
It's a pleasure to show you this unit. Definitely exclusive. There's only 37 private residences in this whole building, so definitely an exclusive address.
And just so you guys know, this is the Tampa Edition. This is one of the hottest pieces of real estate in all of Tampa.
Yeah, this is Tampa's first 5-star hotel. Like I mentioned, there's 37 private residences, 5-star amenities. You've got 24/7 concierge. You've got multiple restaurants, clubs. Inside the building, you have a pretty sick pool right there. So this is one of the hottest, most desirable places in all of Tampa.
And so what would a unit like this cost you?
Yeah, I would say something like this, around 2,000 square feet with a view like this, you're probably looking at that $3.5 million range, but there's all different price points in this building. There's some penthouse units going above 8 million. There's some other units that are maybe not quite as big, don't have the great view, that could be under 3 million. So there's different price points, but something like this, probably in the 3.5 range. So super sleek, we have all the built-in appliances, very kind of minimalist vibes here, but you have a built-in kitchen, refrigerator. You have the wine cooler, you have all your appliances right here.
Oh, so there's a fridge here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because I couldn't even see it.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so built in, top of the line, never been lived in. This is all brand new.
This has never been lived in?
Never been lived in.
Oh, okay.
Here we have a pretty sick dining area. Imagine having your Thanksgiving dinner and you get to look out and have this beautiful view of the arena, of downtown. You get some of the Bayshore Boulevard and the old Tampa Bay, Harbor Island, the Channel. Not a bad.
This view is fantastic. This is probably the best angle of the building. I mean, you get to see the pool, you get the front of Amalie Arena, you get the Channel right here, and you get all of this, all of downtown Tampa. I mean, this is one of the best units I think I've seen.
Yeah, this, like you said, this corner view, this southwest facing view is the ultimate selling point, and that's why anybody would want to live in a place like this, is because you get to have a view like this.
That's worth $3.5 million.
In my opinion.
Allegedly. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
We'll see. This is all just speculative,
Of course, of course.
So we'll go straight back into the primary bedroom with ensuite. So again, waking up every day, you get this view, you get to look at the pool. I got this shade down just for a little privacy, but you get to look at the pool, get to look at downtown, and then we come into your private ensuite here. I mean, I think this just speaks for itself, but this is just the epitome of luxury to me.
Wow.
Spa-like, if you will.
This is amazing.
So you've got, double sinks, nice soaking tub, and then a huge, big old shower. And you can go, spy on the girls at the pool. Just kidding.
From your bathtub, right? That's not creepy at all. But,
just kidding.
No, of course, you never would do that. But
yeah.
I mean, again.
And they might spy on you.
Yeah, exactly. No, the view from here, looking out. I mean, you can be in the tub and literally look at all of downtown Tampa. I mean, that's amazing, right?
Yeah, and you keep talking about the view. I think one of the best parts of the view, and I think I'll have to have you guys come back, is the sunset. So if you come back around 5:30, 6 o'clock,
okay.
You can get a really beautiful sunset. So we'll have to do part 2 and come back during the evening.
Absolutely. I mean, you can walk directly out here. You have direct access to the balcony.
Yeah, you have a beautiful wraparound balcony that wraps around the entire unit. And then you can just see all the exciting things that are going on. You got the Pearl, you've got Boulan, you've got corners, the corner bar. You have just so many awesome restaurants and bars right in this area. You have Sparkman Wharf just right over there. The arena, you've got Yard House right over there. So there's just a lot of exciting things to do, all within, a short walking distance of your residence here.
Nice. Well, thanks for showing us around, man. You want to sit down and have a little chat with me?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Let's head back inside and let's do it.
Oh man, these doors are heavy.
You're a strong guy, though. You got it.
Expensive.
Expensive. They're hurricane resistant, the latest and greatest, so they're going to be a little bit more substantial, I guess you could say.
As it should be, because if you're in here, you're paying a pretty penny for it, so it better protect you. That's
absolutely.
For sure.
You're paying
protect your investment, right?
Right, and yeah, like you said, real estate's an investment, and you got to pay top dollar to protect your investment.
So obviously, we're here in a lovely apartment in the Edition, Tampa.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How could you get us into a place like this today?
Yeah, so I'm a real estate advisor, real estate agent here in Tampa. I do a lot with a lot of the professional athletes in the area, whether that's Bucks players or Rays players or athletes who just live in the area. And also just, traditional buyers and sellers. And so I've kind of just, in the last 7-8 years been able to kind of work my way up in the industry and, been fortunate to have, some nice properties under my belt, such as some of the ones here in the Edition. So this is one of my favorite buildings and one of the most marquee buildings here in Tampa. So it's been a fun journey.
And your background's also in sports, both personally and your family. I know that obviously you played at Oregon, played football there, and obviously your father was a professional athlete. So how and Hall of Fame football coach.
He did a little coaching as well.
Yeah, exactly. He did a little coaching as well. He's probably more known for the coaching than when he actually played in the league. But he did do both.
Yeah, but he did do both.
So, just remember your dad. I told him, hey, I remember you were an athlete.
Yeah,
okay?
he was an athlete first.
Athlete first, So how did your background in sports, how did that kind of lead you to where you are currently?
Yeah, absolutely. So I finished my college playing career, and like a lot of athletes, I kind of had that irrational confidence that I was going to go to the league and go pro and make my career and make my earnings, going that way. And then after I got done playing, I was kind of like, man, didn't quite get there. So now I need to pivot. I tried a couple different things, in my early 20s, just trying to figure out what I was interested in, trying to find my passion. Got into real estate, and within real estate, just like yourself, you kind of have to have a niche, So for you, that's SBA loans. For me, it was just helping professional athletes. As a former professional athlete, I kind of figured that was low-hanging fruit.
Sure.
And my first deal was with a former Oregon Duck who played for the Bucks, and that was just kind of got my foot in the door. Mm-hmm. I met his business manager, who introduced me to some other players on the team, and then you just do right by one person. They give your name to somebody else. Now you have 2 people that vouch for you, and then you have 4,
Sure.
and then you just kind of go from there. So
That's
didn't
so
happen
true.
overnight, but that's kind of the game plan,
Yeah, I tell my associate lender all the time that nothing sells like closed deals.
Yeah.
When people see that you can execute and you can go to the market and say, hey, look what I just did for
Yep.
so-and-so, and then they get to say it to their friends and
Right.
family as well. I mean, that's how things kind of multiply and take on a life of their own.
Absolutely, and just like to that note, you can do all the marketing you can for yourself, but then if somebody else speaks for you and says, Eric closed my deal or Sterling closed my loan and he did a great job, that speaks volumes more than any billboard I put up or any Instagram post I do or any mailer I send out. Like somebody else speaking for you, is a much better indication of what really happened.
So, obviously you're a sharp guy. You could have done anything that you wanted to do. Was there something in particular that drove you towards doing real estate?
Yeah, so I didn't realize it, but I've always kind of had an interest in real estate. My interest goes back to growing up. You actually know my mom just from growing up, but my mom used to take me to open houses. Not that we were ever necessarily moving around, but she just liked to see what the new trends were, what the new styles were. So I was doing that back when I was younger. Never thought it was to be a career. I was so locked in on sports.
Sure.
And then as I'm just trying to figure things out, I initially wanted to be a flipper. This is probably 2014, 2015. And I was like, you know what? I'm an athlete. I'm used to not being in a traditional 9-to-5. I never had a boss per se before, so I was like, I'm just gonna invest in some real estate, do some flips. I'll just work my way up. And unfortunately at the time, but fortunately now, God just kind of closed that door. I wasn't really getting the right opportunities. And then after about 6 months, I kind of pivoted towards more of this traditional buying and selling of real estate and representing those clients. And that was about 7-8 years ago, and I kind of haven't looked back since then.
So what type of homes do you mostly specialize in?
That's a good question. There's really a mix, and I really like to say that I just kind of specialize in just helping find my clients whatever they need. So like I mentioned, I do a lot with athletes, and they tend to buy some nice higher end stuff, some luxury stuff. I kind of work on all price points, but it's really about the relationship with the person and then trying to satisfy their needs. So I do deals here in Tampa, I do deals in St. Pete, Clearwater, Odessa and Lutz, some of the northern suburbs. It's really about, like I said, the relationship I have with the client and then trying to satisfy their needs. But it is kind of fun to sell the nice homes, the big condos, the mansions. So I've been fortunate to have a couple of those transactions, which, they're fun.
So, I mean, obviously everybody wants to sell the big homes, right? I mean, shows like Selling Sunset are like the hottest thing on Netflix, right? Because, I mean, it's just sexy, right? But what are some of the complexities with selling these larger homes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing you said, the complexity, is that you're dealing with a sophisticated buyer and a sophisticated seller, usually at a multi-million-dollar price point. It's not their first time buying a house, right? So you need to be educated on a lot of different things so that you can speak confidently to your client and also to the opposing realtor who's also not their first time doing it either, right?
Sure, yeah.
But then it's also funny because certain things where the same headaches you're dealing with at 5 million, you're dealing with 500,000. So it's like, you might as well get paid a little bit more for those same headaches, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the same way with what I do, right? I mean, if I'm going to do a loan, whether it's 500,000 or 5 million, the process is the process.
Exactly.
So I'm going to have to deal with it one way or another. So it's like, if you want to try and hit goals,
right.
You want to go for bigger units from time to time. So like you said, at least you're getting paid for the headache in that
absolutely.
instance. So talk to me a little bit about the current market here in Tampa, but I guess you can also just talk about real estate market in general. I mean, how have things been over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, it's been an interesting rise. I'll kind of go back to the pandemic in 2020, and starting there over the last 3 years, we've been on just a meteoric rise, right? You've seen properties double, triple in value in some cases. And then I noticed in about July, the interest rates kind of got to a point where I think people were just tapped out. They were up in that 7 to 8% range. And that was the first time in a few years where I noticed that the demand really just kind of fell off a little bit. I think a couple of things come into play there. You have a lot of sellers, potential sellers, who bought their home at 3%, 2%, 4%, whatever it may be interest. And now the idea of selling that home and moving into a new home at 8% is, why would you do that, right?
Right, yeah.
I don't blame them.
I have the same problem, right? It's like, right now I have an incredibly low rate on my home, right? I mean, it's like 2.25, right? So it's like, we can never sell.
Yeah. So you're locked in until you have 4 more kids, or until you get, a bunch of promotions, or you win the lottery, or whatever it's going to be. But you're not going to sell it just to go turn around and go lock yourself in at 8% somewhere else. So there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck in their homes. So there's not a lot of inventory. And then what's out there, like I said, for a lot of the buyers, they've been watching for the last couple of years. The rates just kind of increase, and finally they said, you know what, like 7.5%, 8%, like I'm not doing it.
Right.
So I'm speaking to different people in the lending industry. I'm hopeful that maybe towards the end of next year we may see some relief with the rates, where they may start to come back down. But it could be a challenging next year here in 2024, just with the rates we have. A lot of people who got into the real estate industry over the last couple of years have only seen good times. It was very easy to sell a house, in 2022, when you just put a sign in the yard and it sold for over asking price the first day. But now it's a little more challenging, so it's just going to require people to kind of adjust their game and their practices and keep up with the time. So I'm always looking for the new opportunities, but it's going to be a different year, I think.
And I think there's a perception that there are certain people who are just recession-proof, right? And so, I mean, do you see that at all with your, you work with some higher-end buyers.
Sure.
Do you feel like they also are being a little bit more conscious now with their money as well?
The recession-proof is an interesting term. So in one sense, yes, like an NFL player, he's going to be making money, and the NFL is going to be making money this year, next year, and as long as we can see going forward. But at the same time, part of my job as an advisor is still to educate my clients on making good decisions. So just because you have a guaranteed contract and you're going to be on the team for the next 4 years, if I think you're buying too high, I'm going to tell you, hey, you're buying at the peak of the market. Either try to negotiate a better deal or wait. So recession-proof in the sense that they may have the money, but just because they have the money doesn't mean it's smart for them to use it. And I think a lot of sophisticated buyers are waiting for better opportunities.
So you'll actually tell somebody like, hey, you can't afford this. This is too much.
Oh, absolutely. It's obviously, I love to make commissions, which we're doing, but the number one thing I'm doing is being an advisor, and if it's not in my client's best interest, I can't, in good conscience and good faith, tell them to move forward. So if they ask me, hey, what do you think, Eric? I got to keep it real.
Yeah, he was like, hey, man, I know what your signing bonus is.
Right.
I saw it on ESPN last night.
Especially,
this isn't it.
Respectfully, with the athletes, all their contracts are public information, and so, you look at it and you say, hey, all right, you're guaranteed this after you pay the tax man on that, after you pay your agent, after you pay your union fees, you're coming home with this. I don't think it's a good deal. I think we need to rent, or we need to change our budget, or wait till that second contract hits in, or maybe buy some investment properties that will fund this, maybe the dream home in a couple years.
That's a good point that you touched on. You don't just do residential in terms of if someone's going to move in there and live there full time. You also will do investment residential as well.
Yeah, and there's different kind of different spaces in that, but yeah, absolutely. Whether it's just looking for a single family home that I'm going to maybe live in for half the year and then rent out for half the year, and I want to make sure that the rental income can satisfy the mortgage, or hey, I'm buying a duplex or a fourplex and I wanted to generate some cash flow. So I definitely do that as well. It's not just all about the sexy penthouses and the big mansions and waterfront homes. It's all about you know, sometimes those ugly duplexes make a lot of good money too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm all on with that, man. It's like, hey, whatever makes money and put something in your pocket at the end of the day, I don't care what it looks like.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, look, you can take the money you make from that and then go buy the cool stuff.
Absolutely, yep. That's the way to do it. It's so tempting because you know, as it's human nature, you kind of want what you want when you want it, and so just, you know, to go back to the athlete's point of view, you know, you've been working since middle school or high school, and now you're in the pros, and you're like, all right, I want to buy the mansion, I want to buy the car. But it's like, all right, if you can wait 2 more years, maybe buy a couple investment properties. Once those start cash flowing, then we can buy that mansion, and you'll feel better about it because you're paying out of your front pocket, so to speak, and not your back pocket.
I like that. That's called being an advisor right there.
Yeah, that's what I try to do.
So for somebody who's interested in, you know, being the next Eric Dungy because they want to, you know, sell penthouses, you know, how do they get into the industry? What would you recommend to them? And, you know, what makes a good realtor?
Yeah, as far as what makes a good realtor, you kind of mentioned earlier, like some of the TV shows now, you have Selling Sunset, and you know, it's all glamorous, and you're driving around in your fancy car, you're eating brunch and drinking mimosas, but really, like, to be a good realtor, you have to have a servant's heart. It's not always going to be glamorous. You're going to be, you know, doing weekend open houses. You're going to be having to call your clients after they get out of work at 6, 7 o'clock in the evening because they can't talk during the day. You're going to show 20 houses and only to be able to put an offer on the very last one after, you know, 20 straight showings, or maybe not even make an offer if it's not the right deal for your client. So you really have to have a servant's heart, and like I said, be an advisor. And I know that, you know, we're professionals, we want to get paid, but if your focus is money, A, your clients are going to feel that and feel uncomfortable, and then B, like, it's just, you're not going to make it in this industry if you have a short-term mindset. You really have to have a long-term mindset, see the big picture vision of what you're trying to do, and like I said, have that servant's heart.
And so here's a good question for you as a realtor. Should you rent or should you buy in this current market?
It's always about what makes sense for your situation. I think one key thing is if you're going to buy, can you imagine yourself being locked into this home and this payment for 3 to 5 years, right? If you're, hey, I love this neighborhood, I love this city, I'm this whatever, I'm gonna lock myself in, great. If you're someone who likes to move around year to year, has flexibility, you may want to travel, it may make more sense to rent. And then obviously with the rates being what they are, you can always buy and refinance, but I know some people are intimidated, you know, they're afraid of paying top dollar, of buying at the top of the height of the market, and they're afraid of the unknown. So you have to do what's comfortable for you, but don't buy until you have enough for a good down payment. And if you don't see yourself staying in the same location for a few years, then no pressure. You know, don't feel like you have to buy something.
Is there a particular market or area in Tampa right now that you see as being kind of up and coming or super hot, maybe a good place to either invest or buy a home?
For me, I always tell people to follow the water. So whether that's down here in the watershed area, whether that's maybe West Shore Marina District, whether that's that's Tampa Riverwalk area, wherever, or even a Lake Keystone, something like that. I think the undervalued part of Tampa is the waterfront, and people who are coming from other markets, like whether that's Miami or that's New York or that's California or wherever, they're looking at Tampa and saying, oh, I can get a house on the water for, you know, a couple $1 million, but in Miami it's 20 million, right? So I think, in my opinion, that anywhere adjacent to water, it's going to keep appreciating over time, and you're going to look back maybe 10, 20 years from now and be like, man, you know, you were able to snag a waterfront house for $1 million, and now it's worth, you know, 2 or 3 times that amount. So that's kind of my advice is, you know, follow the water.
So obviously you have a father who's a Hall of Fame football coach. He's on TV every Sunday. And you know, you've grown up kind of a little bit in the public eye because of obviously the large light that's shined on him. Was there any pressure for you living up to that Dungy name?
Yeah, and it's funny because there was never any pressure placed on me by my dad or by my parents, but growing up, I just put a lot of pressure on myself. I think one thing I really wanted to do is I really wanted to just make a name for myself. And so I was just, just hypercritical of myself, of always, proving people wrong, proving the doubters and the haters wrong, even though they may or may not have even existed. Yeah. Just trying to like make sure everybody saw me as Eric Dungy and as my own person, and everything I did, every accolade I did was on my own merit. And so I was in my head a lot about that. And I kind of had to as I got through life and got through my football career, I kind of had to let go of that and let go of that pressure and just say, hey man, I know you want to be your own person, but you can't control what other people think. I would get mad, I'd read a high school in the newspaper and he'd be like, all right, John Smith had a touchdown and Fred Jones had a touchdown and Eric Dungy, Tony Dungy's son. I'm like, dang, can I be like John Smith and just be, be my own guy? But it's also kind of interesting way. as I got into my professional journey here as a real estate agent, you know, again, I want to prove myself on my own merits, but I had to step back and appreciate that, you know, there's not a lot of people who don't have goodness associated with their family name, right? A lot of people who their parents or their family members maybe tarnish their name, and they're having to work to fight a reputation or to overcome something. And I have a blessing that, you know, there's a lot of goodness associated with the Dungy name, especially in Tampa. You know, I'm very thankful that my dad's, you know, pretty much done all the right things and hasn't, you know, there's no scandals, there's no anything like that. Sure. And so if you just meet somebody for their first time, you know, and you hear Eric Dungy, they're going to say, oh, okay, like, it's usually a good thing that comes to their mind, not like, oh, Eric, don't you know? So I like, as much as I grew up wanting to be my own person and all that stuff, it's like, you know, I have to really sit back and appreciate my parents for, you know, like I said, just laying that great foundation. I hope that, you know, one day when I have, you know, my own family, my own children, one day I can kind of pass that legacy on of, hey, you know, there's just a positive association with the name Dungy.
Obviously, you're extremely successful now. You know, you built a brand for yourself. You know, you're a proven commodity in the industry, but you know, coming into it, you know, 5 or 6 years ago when you were still, you know, you were younger, you hadn't really proven yourself yet. You're a young black man with dreadlocks and a beard. How did people treat you?
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that, and you know, just, you know, to call it what it is. I was getting into an industry where there's not a lot of people on the agent side or really on the high end buyer or seller side that, you know, look like me, that have dreadlocks, that have darker skin, things like that. So it was a little intimidating. And I remember at meeting with a realtor when I first got my license, and he was kind of giving me some advice, and he kind of said, hey man, if you want to make it, you know, you got to lose the locks, you got to shave the beard. And I was like, dang, that sucks, but like, maybe that's what it takes. And I really thought about it for a second, but at the end of the day, I kind of felt like, man, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to go out being myself, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And so I kind of just had the mindset that, you know, I'm going to be myself, and if I only have one client that messes with, you know, that likes that, then that's my one client. I'm going to, you know, rock out for that person. And then what I started realizing is that even people who maybe don't look like me or don't, you know, weren't born where I was born or don't have, you know, whatever the traits I have, they appreciate me just being myself and being real. And I think authenticity in this business means a lot more than what education you have or where you were born or what your parents do or how much money you make. I think people just gravitate towards realness. And so I try my best just to be myself every day. And I know that not everybody's going to resonate with that. And I may miss a client here and there, but I'm grateful for the people who like me for who I am. And those are the people I'm rocking with.
And in a way, you know, the fact that you're comfortable in your skin also gives comfort to the client, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, hey, if this guy is comfortable, you know, he wears his natural hair the way that he wants to, he's not putting on some facade to try and be somebody that he's not, so he's probably not going to sell me on something that he doesn't really believe in.
Exactly. So it goes back to what you mentioned earlier about, you know, what does it take to be a successful agent? And I talked about the servant's heart, but also just being yourself. You know, if you are like, all right, I'm going to come in and be my sales guy, I'm going to dress differently and use my different voice, people are going to be like, man, like, they might not even be able to put their finger on it, but they're like, something's off about that guy. I just don't quite like it. I don't quite trust it. I don't quite feel comfortable. As opposed to you just being yourself and be like, hey, this is who I am. That's the kind of attitude and spirit that is required for somebody to say, hey, you know what? I'm making the biggest decision of my life, and I want you to guide me through it, right? It's just, I trust you. I know you're going to shoot it straight with me. You don't have any ulterior motives. You're just, you know, you're comfortable in your own skin, like you've mentioned. And that's just like my way to live and my suggestion for anybody else, you know, trying to make it in this space.
There's only one you.
Yep, and I'm, you know, trying to be the best Eric I can be.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for sitting down with me today, getting us into this lovely, beautiful apartment here at the Edition. You know, you have a very interesting story, and so I thought it was important for the people to hear that. You know, your sports background transitioning into what you're doing now. So I think you have a story that people need to hear.
Thank you, Sterling. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the platform to tell my story. I appreciate you just allowing me to be comfortable with being myself and to tell that story, and hopefully it was inspirational to people that are looking. And for everybody watching, make sure you like and subscribe to SterlingSBA.